Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is the Red Russian. And as always, it is the featured cocktail in today's episode. We're going to take our glass with ice. To that, we're going to add vodka. 1 1/2 ounces. Next, cherry liqueur. Maraschino cherry liqueur. That's what I'm using. 1/4 ounce. Close enough. Then we stir. And then we strain into our fancy glass. Not sure why it's called a Red Russian. Oh, details. It's all alcohol. Yeah. Pretty strong. But it's not much of it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. See ya.
You might think you're magical and even a great dancer, like Christopher Lee in this week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast, Rasputin the Mad Monk. But rest assured, even the most mystical beings have certain weaknesses. And unfortunately for Rasputin, in this movie, his vulnerability lies in a fondness for young, beautiful women. His passion is easily exploited by his enemies and becomes his downfall. Which just goes to show, we all have our weak spots. Guard them well. Cheers.
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and/or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hi everyone, I'm Greg.
Hello, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. The podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
We're sounding very chipper today, aren't we? I'm doing great. How are you, Greg?
I'm good, Karen. Thank you for asking.
That's what we do.
Karen, there's a few things we should discuss before we get started.
Well, that's exciting. What do we get to discuss?
Well, as you know, Karen, we are right smack dab in the middle of our Sweet 16 bracket this week.
Our horror film Sweet 16 bracket.
Horror film Sweet 16 bracket. So if you haven't already, boys and girls, go to our website, click on the link, or in our socials, click on the links and vote for your favorite horror movie.
Yeah, you fill out the bracket.
Yeah, filling out
just
the bracket.
Just like the $10 you wasted on the NCAA bracket, that you threw into the wind. This one, at least you can pick your favorite.
Yes. And you determine the winner, boys and girls.
Yes, the most number of votes is the winner. And I picked my favorites, and Greg picked his favorites of movies we've done on the podcast, and we're going to see who comes out on top.
Yes, we are.
So the Sweet 16 is we've picked 8 of our favorites. So you vote on my side, which is the cool side, and Greg's side, which is
the dark side.
Yes, there you go. So you pick which ones you like on each side, and in the end, we'll go face to face.
It'll be the cool side versus the dark side. Which will come out victorious? I think I know.
Yeah, I think everybody knows.
So yeah, boys and girls, please go do that. We need your help badly for that.
And just to be clear, if you put your email in there, you have a chance to win a prize, but you do not have to put your email in order to vote.
But if you want to win one of 5 copies of Scream 6 on Blu-ray, you should do that.
You should see Greg right now. He's doing the Vanna White, or no, The Price is Right, where he's holding it up so you can see.
Yes, I am. It's the Price is Right flip, I think is what they call it, Karen, when you do your hand, twirl your hand around. Also, Karen, I want to point out, we've talked about the newsletter before lots of times on the podcast here, haven't we? Actually, a new one just came out, didn't it, Karen?
Probably did.
Well, I forgot to mention that I added a link to sign up on our Facebook page.
Oh, you did?
Totally slipped my mind. But yeah, if you go to our Facebook page, there is a button there that says sign up, and that will take you right to our sign up page on our website. You can put in your information, and you too will receive our monthly newsletter at the beginning of every month. Filled, jam-packed, bursting at the brim of useful information. Isn't that correct, Karen?
I wouldn't call it useful information, but
it's fun.
Horror factoids for sure.
I think that's all I have, Karen, before we get started.
How many brackets have you filled out? Not counting the horror one. Do you usually do like 3?
Well, it's a little early now, Karen. I mean, the March Madness isn't for a few weeks here, but I usually do 2 brackets, and then I use the same brackets in whatever I happen to
Oh, you do. So you do 2 total, but or 2, but 4
different
total.
Brackets, but I may do 4. I don't know. We usually have them at work. I usually sign up on the ESPN one, and I do 2 brackets in each one. Usually I do one where I really, really, really try to win, and one where I pick, which mascot I think will win or whatever.
I used to pick by which city I'd rather live in.
I have done it before. I've picked the team which is closest to home, depending on where they play. I've done that kind of stuff before too.
Some people do it by color of the uniform. Which color do I like better? And they have just as much chance to win in the end.
All right, Karen, are we ready to just get into this film?
Which was your choice?
Was it my choice, Karen?
It'll be a shock to everyone to find out it was. What did you pick?
Karen, the film I have chosen is Rasputin the Mad Monk, a Hammer film from 1966.
Are you just on a Hammer roll, or is there some other connection?
Karen, this film was released on March 6th, which is today's date, if you are listening to it on the day it goes live. So we are celebrating the 58th anniversary of Rasputin the Mad Monk. You remember 1966, Karen?
No, I do not. I'm sure you don't either.
Of course not, Karen. I have a cocktail, Karen.
That you do. What is it?
The cocktail I have chosen is called the Red Russian, and I was very pleased as I was watching this film that I picked it. I kind of felt like you, I was hoping there'd be kind of, but I knew there was going to be a tie-in. It's
you were hoping there was some drinking.
Rasputin's Russian, it's not, of course it's. But then when he showed up in his lovely red satin wardrobe, I'm like, ooh, even more fitting.
Yes.
Red Russian.
How do you make such a thing?
We're going to need 1.5 ounces of vodka, of course, for a Russian drink, and 3/4 ounce of cherry liqueur. I use maraschino cherry liqueur, but
So did I, which isn't red,
No, it's not red.
which is a little disappointing because I bet if you got regular cherry liqueur, it would be red.
Probably would be. But basically, you just stir over ice in a mixing glass, strain into an aperitif glass. Is that how you say that? Aperitif?
Yes.
Which is basically a fancy fluted glass, something like I'm holding in my hands right now, isn't it, Karen?
I think it's about half the size of a flute. It's got it.
Yeah,
I
this is a
think it
flute.
has a stem and then a small
Yeah, because there's
cup
not
on
much.
top.
It's only a little over 2 ounces, right? Two
Yeah.
and a quarter. And then we
I-
serve, Karen.
I was at a fancy doctor dinner once on a date, actually, in graduate school.
Ooh,
And
a
it was,
date? You had a
it
date?
was, I know, it's shocking. And I didn't know anybody, and it was a little pretentious. And at the end, I think they served brandy in those little aperitif glasses, and everybody was gone somewhere. So I just shot like 6 of them because I was the only one at the table. And I just went around and took everyone's.
Were you feeling bad, Karen? Were you feverish? Was it medicinal? Because that's apparently what brandy's used for in all these movies.
I know, it's true. No, but I felt better.
Well, that's good. All right, Karen, should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own Red Russian?
Absolutely.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us?
Oh, I got a good one.
Ooh.
It's funny.
I'm all excited now. Go on. Tell us all the story.
It is brief. The bearded Russian mystic worms his way into Tsar Nicholas II's court by seducing a lady in waiting.
Karen, we are a match. Is that really accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. We never saw Tsar Nicholas. I kind of got the feeling
it's
that
his
Tsar
court,
Nicholas was gone. All we saw was the Tsarina and Alexei. We didn't see Nicholas at all.
No.
Okay. All right, Karen, tell us everything you enjoyed in this film. I know there's bound to be a lot.
Well, it's a Hammer film, so most of the costumes were good. Some of them looked a little cheap, but most of them looked pretty good. The sets were amazing. I will say I really, really liked Christopher Lee in this role, Sir Christopher Lee, much better than I like him as Dracula. Because of his height, he has this impressive and he towers over everyone. So he has that, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. He's intimidating, which I'm sure he's supposed to be, on top of just the acting and everything. Just his pure size, I think, makes a big difference and really helps him in this role. I really liked him in the role. I thought he did a really good job. I think the story's good. I don't really know a lot about.
I believe it is based on a true story, Karen.
Yes, but I don't know a lot of details about Rasputin. And sometimes things like that in history get distorted when they're trying to make someone look bad. So I don't really, and I haven't read a lot about him. I mean, what we know is basically, at least what I learned about him, is he was a crazy person who wormed his way, as it says, into the court and kind of took over the Tsarina everyday life, is what we know in a general way. At least that's what I know. That's probably it. What do you got that you really liked? I mean, I should say there is sort of a potential for a sequel, but since it's based on a true story, we don't really think that there's going to be one.
No.
So it's a small cast. I could keep track of who was who pretty easily, which I do enjoy. It's funny. It's a Hammer film, so it starts in the woods, which made me laugh because I'm like, is there one that just doesn't?
It doesn't. But there wasn't a carriage
No, but
running wild through the woods, Karen.
No, but it just, that always makes me laugh. Anyway, what did you really like about it?
First thing I've written down is Christopher Lee is very good in this film.
Might be his best.
I agree. And he thinks it was his best too. I was reading things. He felt it was his best work. So, or at least the time when he was interviewed about it. Up to 1992, even the director said that this was he thought this was Christopher Lee's best work. I wrote, he has lots of lines, Karen.
He does. He proves he can memorize lines.
Which is very unlike the film they did immediately before this, which was Horror of Dracula, which also starred Christopher Lee and Barbara Shelley. And of course, they reused a lot of the sets and whatever, because that's what they did. I wrote some nice shots.
There were some nice shots, yeah.
There were a couple in particular that I thought were really good. I may mention them when we cover them. Sets, Hammer Film. It's English. They really know how to build sets, Karen. or they know how to find them.
And there's 3 or 4.
Lots of historic buildings probably over there and across the pond in the UK they can use. I did write, he's a very large man. And at one point I did, in my talking through the film here, going through scene by scene, I made a note that he has very large hands.
He does. I said that too. Because he's a big dude. And speaking of that, he puts his hands to heal some people. And I will say there's a young boy actor who has to pretend he's unconscious. And I thought he did an excellent job.
Oh, yeah.
Usually the kids, you can see their eyes moving or they're kind of blinking. That kid, not a wink, even when he had his hands on him. So I know he doesn't really
I think he's credited, but
that many lines or anything. He has some lines.
He does have some lines.
He really sold that unconsciousness, which most of the times when kids do that, you can see that they're, even adults, that's hard to do.
It is.
Alexei is his name in the film.
Alexei. Yeah, oddly, he's not credited, but the first tart and second tart are, Karen. So, whatever.
It's a very small part, but
actually the tarts are uncredited, but they're listed.
That is one of the places you notice that Christopher Lee's hands are huge, but you notice it every time he puts his hands on someone's face because his hands are bigger than their head.
Yeah. I already said it, but I did make a note about the red satin and the red Russian. I was very pleased at that.
Felt good about yourself.
I did. Felt good about it. I think the acting in general was good. Actually, Barbara Shelley was good.
Yeah, I agree.
Barbara Shelley played Sonia. She's the first lady of Hammer Films, Karen.
Oh.
She was in Man Trap, The Camp on Blood Island, The Shadow of the Cat, The Gorgon, Secret of Blood Island, Dracula, Prince of Darkness, Rasputin the Mad Monk. So those two came right after one another. And Quartermass in the Pit. She's been in more Hammer films than any actress.
Good for her.
Yeah. She's a good looking lady too. I'm looking at her in the Hammer Glamour book, Karen. Like my favorite picture of her is she reminds me of Natalie Wood a little bit.
She does, yeah.
Isn't she in that?
A little bit. She has red hair though. Greg's being like the second grade teacher and
holding up a book.
Holding the book so I can see the picture.
She started a career as a model and then she went into films and whatnot. And then in 1988, she retired from acting and ran an interior design business, Karen.
All right. Is that everything you liked?
Yeah, I think so. That's all I wrote down. Something may come up as we're talking about it. Anything you didn't like, Karen? Anything at all?
Well, the blood's terrible. It's the bright red blood.
You only see it once, though.
I see it twice, I think. Actually, I like the story, but I would have liked a lot less of the beginning part and I would have liked to seen him in court more because we spend a lot of time. Yes, he's a peasant and we have this long, it's also letting us know he's a little morally corrupt or whatever. They kind of set it up that way, but it doesn't take.
He's just making sins that are, worth forgiving.
I know that was the best part. But I would have switched the amount of time they spent on each. Just have him walk in the palace. He's a peasant. You can make that known really easily without all the dancing. There was a lot of dancing, which I don't think was Christopher Lee.
Don't?
No.
I think it was. He's a talented dude.
They never showed his face when he was dancing, but I don't know. It's kind of nitpicky, but he's famous for kind of taking over and worming into the court of the Tsar. And we don't really see anything happen there but one scene. I just thought it would have been a little more interesting. But other than that, I don't really have anything I didn't really like. What about you? Is there anything you didn't like?
It felt a lot like a historical, like documentary, because it is a real person. I'm not sure it was for about the first half of the movie. I was thinking, is this a horror movie?
It isn't really. It's more of a drama.
Yeah, but the second half became kind of a horror movie. First half, not so much.
But he wasn't using mystical powers. He was just hypnotizing people.
Yeah.
Is that
Laying his hands upon them and curing them,
I guess that's true. That is a little,
convincing people to kill themselves.
but that's hypnosis.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you can do that, but they even said, it wasn't even like he had mystical, magical powers. He would know who was coming up the stairs to the door sometimes, but that doesn't play in the end. Like there's some disconnect because he always knew who was coming up the stairs. How did he not know there was a man in the room with him at the end?
Yeah.
Or that the things were poisoned and all of that. He's completely unaware.
Yeah,
but he should have known someone was in there.
So all that last part was all fabricated, right? Because that's not how he died or whatnot in real life.
No, I think a lot of it is fabricated, Greg.
Yeah, probably is. But I found it interesting that especially that last part, like the guy who actually killed him was still alive, and his lawyers contacted him and threatened them with lawsuits if, so they had to make a new character like Ivan. Ivan's the guy who kills him, but the guy who killed him in real life was Prince Yusupov, and Prince Yusupov was still alive when they filmed this, and so Prince Supovov's attorneys contacted them, said, "Yeah, that you're not going to have Prince Supu, whatever his name is, Yusupov in this film."
So originally, a prince killed him.
Yes,
not the doctor.
No, well, it wasn't the doctor who killed him. It was like that military attaché guy.
Yeah, but the doctor attempted.
Doctor poisoned, attempted. Yeah, he would have been, if he would have lived, he would have been convicted of attempted murder. But, as it turns out, Ivan would have got off because, it was self-defense. But whatever, he killed him. But, it's not the way it went down in real life. But, it's a movie. But I thought it was interesting that the actual killer attorneys contacted him and said, "Yeah, we're not going to have a Prince Yusupov character in here." So they decided to call him Ivan, create an Ivan character. And I thought about it as I was reading the credits at the beginning. It said, "No living person."
I did see that.
is
depicted
represented in this film. Yeah, whatever. Probably had to put that in there too. So whatever. That's it. I don't have any other issues with it.
The only other issue is not much happens.
Yeah, that's why I said
it's not slow. It's easy to watch. It's not slow, but there's a lot of
documentary, historical.
There's drinking and dancing, and then there's that whole section. Then there's another whole section of drinking and dancing, and it's kind of like, I don't know. I think they could have made
Isn't that what Russians do, Karen? Drink and dance?
I guess.
Back in whenever this was. Any idea when this took place, Karen?
Well, when was the Tsar Nicholas? Was he in the early 1900s, maybe? Late 1800s? I don't know. History and geography are not my things. You know that.
Well, this is prior to the Russian Revolution, and that started in 1917, apparently. And Prince Yusupov was alive when they filmed this in 1966. So it couldn't have been that long ago, I guess.
I probably have some dates and some of the stuff that I looked up.
It's Nicholas II, wasn't it?
Yeah. The last Tsar. That I know. He was brutally murdered with his entire family.
1918, he was killed.
I know his cousin.
But he abdicated in 1917, but apparently that wasn't enough.
No, and I think he was cousins with the King of England, and the King of
Yes,
England
yeah.
didn't save him.
Right. Yeah, I remember seeing something about that on some PBS thing my wife was watching. My gift was watching. All right. Anything else?
I don't think so.
One more Hammer film off the list, Karen.
Are all Hammer films horror films?
No,
No, okay. But we're
not at
only
all.
watching the horror
Well,
ones.
duh.
Okay. No, I just didn't know if it was like if they were horror adjacent or if they're just completely non-horror.
No, they're non-horror.
Because this is horror adjacent.
All right, Karen, would you like to hear a review of the time?
What do you got in Critics Corner?
First, I have to tell you, Karen, that this film has a 50% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes,
Really?
a 6.2 out of 10 on IMDb.
And an 83% on
Oh, you
Google.
tell me, Karen, what do you think it is on Google?
An 83% on Google.
Is that your final answer?
Sure.
85.
Oh, I'm getting better. I'm getting close.
85%.
Really? That's pretty low. I mean, I'm going off of what IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes gives me a
Well, I think
gauge,
people
but
expected a horror film.
true.
You know what I mean? The review I have is from Variety.
Okay.
And of course, it's dated December 31st, 1965, as they all are. Producer Anthony Nelson Keys and scripter John Elder take a somewhat fanciful and unbelievable approach to the subject of Russia's bad boys. As a result, the dastardly villain has been given some attributes that are certainly colorful. Christopher Lee's Rasputin is completely in character. Huge, deep-voiced, compelling stare. He's a proper rascal. Religious aspects of l'affaire Rasputin are skimmed over. The only two dignitaries portrayed as colorless and dull. Of the Russian court, the Tsarina and the Tsarevich are the only Romanovs shown. The plot revolving after the monk's entry into court of affairs accredited to his hypnotic influence over a lady in waiting on a vengeful plot by the would-be fiancé of the seduced lady in waiting.
What? Beyonce?
Yeah, that's what it says. Okay. I don't know. Would-be fiancé of the lady in waiting. It's a brother,
fiance. Though. Fiance. I thought you said Beyonce, like all the single ladies. I was like, what?
No.
Fiance.
No, but that's wrong.
It's her brother.
It's her brother.
It's her brother. Yeah.
His principal accomplices are an alcoholic doctor and an army officer whose sister has been lined up as Rasputin's next victim.
Conquest more. Yeah. That's it?
That's it.
I don't think they watched it.
Or maybe they didn't catch that. Oh, it's her brother. But Suzanne Farmer plays Vanessa, who is, the next conquest, as you so delicately put it, Karen.
The pretty one.
Yes, the pretty one, the pretty blonde one. And she's been in a few other Hammer films too, but yeah, she didn't have much to do in this.
No, she didn't. But she played her part well.
Yeah, she was fine. She acted.
I think the weakest was the Tsarina. She was fine, but she didn't act.
Regal.
You didn't feel that she was better than everyone else, which is what she would have portrayed herself as, It didn't feel that way. She was fine.
No, she didn't. She almost made her feel like she was a leader, that tried to
they made her kind
of be
like
the people or whatever, or
she was kind of ditzy, which again, she was under the influences, and I know that's what they were trying to sell, but she didn't have that regalness about her.
But at the time where the Russian, were they Christians?
Yeah, they're Orthodox Christians.
Okay. There were bishops and there was lots of praying and making the sign of the cross and
yeah, the wrong way.
Well, they're Russian, Karen.
They're Orthodox, yeah.
All right. Are we ready to move on to the cocktail rating, Karen?
I think so.
Well, what kind of cocktail rating?
I think it's a 3.
I agree. I thought for a second about trying to convince you of a 2 just because of Christopher Lee's performance, but I was like,
It's a
no,
2 for Christopher
it's a
Lee,
3.
but it's a 3 as a movie. But that's probably his best. I was impressed with his performance. I don't always.
It's the best film we've seen him.
Yes. The other one, what was the other one that he was
he
in?
was very good in like the James Bond, The Man with the Golden Gun. That's a really good
Oh,
movie.
well, I don't.
But that's
The other horror film we saw him where he was
this. Yes,
was it Dr. Jekyll or
no, it
something?
was The Man Who Could Cheat Death. I think that was the other one.
Yeah, but this one, he's just perfect in this. He's intimidating. He has a presence in it.
He is in the Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll too, which we did, but I think he's better in The Man Who Could Cheat Death. He plays Pierre, and he's kind of a scoundrel in it too.
But this is my favorite so far, and by a lot.
Yeah, well, got a lot to go, Karen.
True.
We haven't even done all the Draculas yet, or the mummies.
So much to look forward to.
I know, so many films, Karen. All right, are you ready to get into it scene by scene?
I am if you are.
Rasputin the Mad Monk from 1966. Where did you watch this, Karen?
Where was it? Archive.org or something?
Yep, archive.org.
I couldn't find it on Amazon. I had to do a last minute call. Where is this movie?
I did see it on Amazon though. If you subscribe to like history,
I couldn't even find it. It was a different film. That wasn't the Hammer film. That was
it said Christopher Lee when I looked at the details of it.
Really? It was 45 minutes long though.
Oh, was it?
That's what I saw. Maybe I was looking.
Then. Maybe it listed Christopher Lee because they used, I don't know, clips of this film or some stupid shit. I don't know.
Anyway, archive.org, and it was free.
Free.
And a fine copy.
Yeah, it's fine. Film starts, we have credits, Karen, and we see men in a pub.
Well, after we see the
forest outside the pub.
Yes.
And apparently innkeeper's wife is sick. Doctor tells him to give her brandy. If that doesn't work, call a priest.
Yep. There's nothing else he can do. The doctors do not come off well in this film.
No. And the innkeeper says a prayer there. And Rasputin, or who we learn as Rasputin, enters the pub and he wants wine.
And he's just huge. And he's dressed kind of like a peasant. There is a big dichotomy between the peasants and the ball, you know, when you see, and they do a pretty good job of that.
You don't know there's a ball yet, though, but
no, but I'm saying it just reminded me of how he's dressed, and how the people in the pub are dressed is a lot different than when we see the aristocrats.
And the people at the bar tell him there's sickness in this, and he says, "Yeah, I see that. I want my wine." And you don't understand. The innkeeper wife is sick, so he goes up to see the sick woman, and he says he will draw the fever out of her.
She's on the bed sweating. The husband's up there, the innkeeper, and then there's 2 children, a son and a daughter, both in the room with the mom.
Adult children.
Yes, adult children.
So Rasputin puts his hands on her head, and he sweats and trembles, and
he mumbles, does the sign of the cross. So the sign of the cross that he does, this isn't going to mean anything to you, but
no, well,
it might. I don't know but historically, the sign of the cross was made from right to left. So you go top, bottom, right, left. But that's not how, that's the Eastern Orthodox Church, which would be Russian. Catholics, Western Catholics, have made the motion from left to right. So I noticed it right away when they did the sign of the cross. I said, that's not right. And then I thought, oh, wait, they're Orthodox. And I think I remember that it's different. And I looked it up and it is different. When you do it, I go right, left. But you
go right, left?
No, I go left, right. Sorry. Up, down.
Are
up,
you sure
down,
you do
left,
it, Karen?
Right. Yes. Up, down, left. Well, I do it automatically, but they go, I think they go right, left.
Okay.
My husband is Orthodox and he did it that way. And I just couldn't. I was like, what are you doing? That's wrong. You're not going to get in heaven doing it that way. But yeah, it's different. Is this your first time listening to the Scary Spirits podcast? Or maybe you're a regular listener, but missed a few along the way. No worries. Not only can you find every episode on our website, scaryspirits.com, but you'll also get to enjoy awesome show notes too. I just want to say we really appreciate your support. Now let's get back to the show.
So he sweats and trembles. He tells the others to feel his hands as he walks away, and the girl says, "They're burning."
I expected him to go, shh, put him in the water, but they didn't.
No, they didn't.
But he does say throw the water away.
After he puts his hands in it, yeah.
Yeah, and cools his hands down.
So then the woman opens her eyes, or he says, "Open your eyes, woman, you are cured."
Yeah.
And then Rasputin wants 2 bottles of wine. We're back downstairs, and he wants to have a party. He's telling the innkeeper.
Yeah, the innkeeper's like, well, what can I, how can I repay you? This is amazing. You can have anything you want. He wants 2 bottles of wine and a party.
And his daughter in her prettiest dress.
Yes, he does make sure of that.
They're going to have a party. And then there's dancing and drinking, Karen. Specifically, the daughter and Rasputin dancing. And apparently the daughter's boyfriend that walks in. And
yeah, he looked out of place to me. He looked very 1970s. I don't know why, what it was, the hair or something.
Yeah, he was kind of clean cut, whatnot. But of course, he is not happy.
Well, no, he walks in and sees this giant Andre the Giant Man dancing with his fiancée.
Dancing with his date.
And there's like, everybody's like, we've never seen her dance like that before.
Yeah. And he wants to know who Rasputin is, but no one knows.
Nope.
But they do know he usually just comes in and gets drunk and leaves. So
Yeah.
apparently they know that about him. He's been there before a few times. And they say he's starting his 4th bottle of wine, Karen.
Yeah. And he's really encouraging the young girl to drink.
Yeah. Drink
Push-
it all, my dear.
Yes, drink it all. He's holding the bottom of the glass so she drinks the whole glass of wine. And we don't know how much she's been drinking, but it appears to be a lot.
No, but the brother and the boyfriend don't like Rasputin dancing with their sister/girlfriend.
Right. And they've been dancing all night.
Yeah. So the brother says, the boyfriend says, I'll show him. And he goes to dance for himself. But Rasputin and the girl are gone, Karen. They're nowhere to be seen.
Not in the bar anymore.
No. And then we see him rolling in the hay, Karen. Next thing we see.
I thought for sure there'd be a fire, but there isn't. Because there's hay everywhere. But they are rolling around.
And there's no nudity either. So the boyfriend enters and fights with Rasputin. Rasputin grabs a blade of some farm.
Well, the boyfriend grabbed the blade first to go after Rasputin, and then they fight kind of poorly. And the girl just stands there. It was kind of funny just watching them with no emotion.
Drunk, Karen.
It's like she's just waiting to see whoever wins, and that's who she runs off with.
But in the struggle, the boyfriend drops the blade. Rasputin grabs it, and the guy's like strangling Rasputin. He grabs the blade and cuts his hand off.
Yeah.
Girl runs away.
Tries
or the
to.
guy runs away. Girl is frightened. She screams. Rasputin starts getting handy with her.
It's like, yeah, just because we had a fight doesn't mean we're not going to still have relations in the barn.
Then the angry townsfolk enter and grab the pitchforks from the barn. They didn't have to bring them with them.
They were right
just
there.
grabbed the ones that were there in the barn.
Because she says no. He just cut a hand off of either her brother. I think it's her brother.
It's her boyfriend.
Her boyfriend. And she's in shock a little bit. And he's just like, okay. He says he's not going to bother us anymore. Let's get back to business. Not business, but he does say he's not going to bother us anymore. And he expects her to just be like, okay, let's roll around, even though the hand's still there. She starts screaming because he's basically going to rape her. And that's when all the townsmen come in.
And they fight. And Rasputin punches a hole through the roof of the barn and makes his escape on a white horse, Karen.
Yes.
A pale white horse. And her brother, I wrote, it's a very quick scene. It's not even, I don't know why it's important, but I guess it's important because this is how they know he's a monk or whatever. But the brother finds his rosary beads, Karen, a question mark I wrote.
It's a rosary, yes.
So then we see Rasputin and he escapes to a monastery. I think he stops and grabs his robes. He's like hidden his robes in the woods.
Yeah, so he picks up a bag. I don't know what it is, but
I think it's his black robes, monastery robes.
He basically sneaks out at night and goes on his little adventures and then comes back in the morning, I guess.
As you do, Karen.
And he gets called to the carpet and his
Before
boss,
the
bishop has the hand on the desk, which he's not really that concerned about. Like, because Rasputin says, I was defending myself. He said, I don't really give a crap about the hand. I'm more worried about your sins.
Your sin. Yeah, serious sins. And Rasputin tells him, well, you've taught me to pray for forgiveness and confession. And I just.
Yeah, confession is good for the soul, he says.
I felt compelled to commit some sins that were worthy of
because he
forgiven.
Says in the monastery, they've set it up so you can't sin. Yeah, there's no good sins in the monastery. No, got to go out and find some.
So the innkeeper tells the bishop that Rasputin saved his wife with his hands. And I guess the bishop says something about, well, surely God would not bless a man, such a sinner as you, with this gift and whatever. And then Rasputin says, well, maybe it's from the devil. And I don't know. I just always had the power, Karen.
When he holds up his hands, they look arthritic or something. They're a little craggly, or I don't know, but they're huge. And then when he says, maybe it's from the devil, and they all cross themselves again to protect themselves.
And he warns the others that the power is his and he will use it as he pleases.
Which basically gets him kicked out of the monastery.
Good day. And then we see him riding in a carriage or something, and he decides to go to St. Petersburg.
Well, I don't know, the carriage driver, it's like he says, laughingly.
Looked like a stagecoach.
Yeah, I know it did. You should go to court and influence the czar. It was such the most bizarre thing to say, just out of nowhere. Just go to court, use your powers there. And he's laughing. And then Christopher Lee grabs the reins and says, let's go to court.
And there's where we see the poster for the grand ball at the palace. But Rasputin enters a cafe. And I call the doctor Dr. Boris the whole time because I couldn't pronounce his last name. So I just call him Boris, Dr. Boris.
The guy driving the coach does say you need a lot of money if you're going to go to court or be in high society or whatever.
So Dr. Boris comes in, and I guess his buddy challenges everyone to try to drink him under the table for money.
Seems like they've been in there before because everyone's like, no.
Nope.
No.
Yeah. Rasputin says, oh, hell yeah, I'll do it. Let's go.
He does say there's 50 kopecks for anyone who can outdrink the doctor. So I just kind of looked, what's a kopeck? A ruble is divided into 100 kopecks. So it's like a penny, kind of, in our, money system. The Central Bank of Russian Federation has the exclusive authority to issue banknotes and coins in Russia. There were coins, but they had different names back in the day. So this is now, I think Russia still has rubles, right?
I don't know. Probably. But we cut to the palace ball. We meet Sonia. She wants to leave. She's bored.
This blows. This is boring.
Someone talks about a cafe.
I think it's Peter.
And it sounds like there might be men drinking and fighting, and she wants to go. Well, that'll be fun.
That's right up my alley. Let's go there.
So they go. Then we cut back to the cafe. We see Rasputin and Dr. Boris drinking shots. Patrons cheer them on. Sonia and the others arrive from the ball, sit down, and as Rasputin's taking a shot, he locks eyes with Vanessa, the pretty one.
There's kind of a little bit of comic relief with what you would call the tarts. When Rasputin first comes in, they
What
both
I
look
would
at
call them, Karen? Is that what you're
well,
saying? What
when
I would call them?
you called him that in the credits.
Well, that's what. Yeah.
He walks in, it's new blood. They both say, "Are you interested? Are you interested?" And then he's the
Do you fancy
bartender
him?
says, "What do you want?" And he puts a coin or something. "What can I get for this?" And they're both not interested because he doesn't have any money. They both turn around and move on. Like, no.
So then Dr. Boris, apparently he can't have any more to drink. They're trying to like pour it down his throat, but no, he's done. He's out. Then Rasputin takes the bottle and chugs it. Dr. Boris gets up to leave and kind of dances a little bit and collapses.
One thing that happens when Rasputin locks eyes with Vanessa, Peter gets all mad. Did you see him look at Vanessa? Peter is up for a fight 100% of the time. I don't know if you've ever had a friend like that. When they drink, they're just ready to fight. Like,
oh, I have, Karen.
Where everybody knows
shocking.
You got to keep that person away from everyone else because they're going to fight. There's the happy drunk and the fighting drunk.
That's me. I'm the happy drunk, Karen.
I love everybody when I drink. I get all chatty. But there's the one, and it's usually a guy who wants to fight, and Peter is that guy. He's constantly saying he wants to fight someone, and Ivan, his friend, is constantly calming him down.
So Rasputin collects his money, and then he begins dancing, I guess to prove how soap that he can still like walk and talk and dance and has balance and whatnot. I don't know. But everyone is very impressed, Karen.
Except they're laughing.
Yeah, and Sonya does a shot of vodka, but it was stronger than she expected, even though they tried to warn her.
Right. But she said, "I can take it." And then she's drinking everyone's champagne. So she actually wasn't laughing at him. She was laughing at herself.
Correct.
But the vodka got to her and she had to drink their champagne, which was in coupe glasses. I just learned, I was watching something where.
Is it coupe or coupe?
They called them coupe glasses in France. It was a thing in France.
So Rasputin finishes his dance and he is not happy that everyone is laughing. And he demands an apology from Sonya. He says, "You will come to me and apologize," giving her the Bela Lugosi eyes.
Yes.
Then we see Sonya and the others riding in the coach. I guess they're going back. Back at the cafe, Rasputin has Dr. Boris pay the bill. Pay the bill, man. There are only two left in this cafe. And Rasputin takes Dr. Boris home. And inside Dr. Boris's apartment or flat or whatever it is, I wrote right here, there's a nice shot of him from the outside as he goes to look out the window. He opens the window and opens it and looks out. But you can see him inside. I couldn't tell if he was inside or outside at first, but I thought it was a nice shot.
Yes, and he's doing some eyes and making Sonya dream about him.
Yeah, I said he sees Sonya turning in her sleep.
I think he's...
I hear the secrets that you keep. She's not talking in her sleep, though, is she?
No, she's just dreaming of him, I think.
The next we see, I guess next day, Sonya knocking on the door of the cafe. No one answers, so she goes in. She asks the innkeeper the whereabouts of Rasputin, and she pays for the information. The innkeeper or barkeep or whatever the hell he is tells her to be careful.
She tips him. On the outside wall of the pub, there is a sign, and it's in Cyrillic, which, if you were interested to know that around two...
It's in Cyrillic.
It's in Cyrillic. It's the writing.
Cyrillic. What the hell is Cyrillic, Karen?
It's the official script of Russia. As of 2019, around 250 people in Eurasia use Cyrillic as the official script for their national languages, with Russia accounting for more than half of them.
It's the alphabet, right?
It's their alphabet. It's their alphabet.
Okay.
Yeah. Just there's one sign in the whole movie, and it's on the outside of the pub. I have no idea what it says.
There's a sign that says "Palace at the Ball."
Oh, was it in Cyrillic? But we could read it. No, so that's what I'm saying. This one sign lets us know we're in Russia.
So then we cut back. We're in Dr. Boris's apartment or flat or whatever. And
Rasputin's just moved in. He has no choice.
Yeah. And there's a knock at the door. He knows who it is, but he tells Dr. Boris to get the door.
What if it's someone I owe money to?
Yeah, he says, "I know who it is." So Sonya says she has come to apologize. And Rasputin says, well, apologize then. She does. And then he goes over to her and she tells her to kneel. And then he slaps her.
Why is that funny? That was unnecessary.
Then Sonia reveals that she is the lady in waiting to the Tsarina, or whatever it is.
Tsarina.
Tsarina.
But he's very intrigued by that. So he tells Boris,
Oh, are you?
Oh,
really?
Boris, go get food and wine. Leave us. As soon as he finds that out.
Yeah, so Rasputin and Sonia kissy face.
All of a sudden, she's not worth smacking around because,
No. And she disrobes and gets
immediately.
in bed. Then we have a time lapse, I think, Karen.
Well, it goes to black after they are in bed.
But Sonia's telling Rasputin about how she watches over the Tsarina's young son, Alexei.
Yeah, what her job is. So Alexei was the heir to the Russian Empire. He was the youngest child and only son of Nicholas II and Alexandra.
I assume he died too, right?
Yeah. They had 4 daughters, Olga, Tatiana, Maria, and Anastasia, and one
Anastasia,
son.
I was going to say. I think there's an Anastasia in there.
And one son, Alexis.
So then Dr. Boris returns with food.
Yeah, it took him like a day, or I guess he knew he wasn't supposed to come home that night. Was go get food and wine.
I have no idea how long it took. Then Rasputin hypnotizes Sonia. Says, listen and obey. Tells him that Sonia will see to it that the Tsar's heir, is that what they call him? Alexei?
Yeah, there's a word for it. I can't remember.
Will have an accident. He will be hurt, and you will say you know of a certain holy man who can cure him. You will send for me. Dr. Boris has his doubts. He's not sure it's a good idea. But Rasputin assures him the boy will be fine.
Yeah, he snaps his fingers to wake her up, tells her to get dressed and get out. Dressed. She doesn't remember anything.
No, she asks, when will I see you again? And he tells her when she has done what he has told her, and she doesn't understand.
And he does tell her to leave all her money.
Yeah, leave all your money on the bed.
On the bed. He does a lot of very bold laughing.
Then we see Alexei, the boy, Sonia, and Vanessa. And Sonia warns Alexei that he will slip. He's climbing on, boys will be boys, Karen. He's climbing on cement walls and whatnot. But she pushes Alexei down so that he falls.
Yeah, they had talked earlier about him. He likes to skate on the frozen river. So he's kind of walking on some concrete pillar. It looks like he's outside of the castle or even maybe on a bridge or something. And she pushes him and he falls down onto the ice.
He's unconscious, but still breathing, apparently. Vanessa kind of sees it all, but I think she's shielded from the pillars or something. But she asks what happened, and Sonia says he must have slipped. And we see Alexei seen by a doctor. Doctor wants to take the boy to the hospital, but they all refuse.
The mother this is his home.
Yeah. It's in God's hands now, and they pray.
Which they should have let him go to the hospital, but whatever. She doesn't believe in science.
It's in God's hands, Karen.
She asks the bishop, what should they do? And he says they just have to pray. Yeah. And then Sonia has a revelation.
Sonia tells the Tsarina that she knows of a holy man, or perhaps they should send for him. Back in the cafe, man comes to get Rasputin to heal Alexei. But Rasputin says he must go to the cathedral first to pray, and then he will come see the boy. Think he goes to pray, Karen? Where do you think he goes?
I don't know where he went.
Another cafe?
I don't know. Maybe he did. He is a holy man. He was in the monastery. So maybe, he powers up at the cathedral or something.
Then we see Rasputin arrive at the palace. The bishop welcomes him and holds out his hand, I guess, to
for him to kiss
my
the
ring or whatever. And he just ignores him. Walked right past.
That was funny. That was a good one.
And Rasputin performs the same ritual he did on the innkeeper's wife, putting his big ass hands on the boy's head. And right here I wrote, Christopher Lee has big hands. Big hairy hands, Karen. Big fat thumbs and fingers. And
I think he had makeup on to make him look. At first, I thought he was supposed to look like he had his hands in the soil or something, but I think they were trying to make him look darker, like he had darker skin, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know, but here's as good a spot as any to give you a little information about Rasputin, because I don't know a lot about him, but he was a Russian mystic and holy man, best known for having befriended the imperial family of Nicholas II, the last emperor of Russia. And he gained considerable influence in the final years of the Russian Empire. He was born to a family of peasants in Siberia. He had a religious conversion experience after embarking on a pilgrimage to a monastery in 1897, has been described as a monk, though he held no official position in the Russian Orthodox Church. In 1904 to 1905, maybe he traveled to St. Petersburg and captivated a number of religious and social leaders, eventually becoming a prominent figure in Russian society. In 1905, he met Nicholas II and his empress consort, Alexandra. So in late 1906, he began acting as a faith healer for Nicholas's and Alexandra's only son, Alexei, who suffered from hemophilia, which probably came from all their inbreeding. He was a divisive figure at court, seen by some Russians as a mystic, visionary, and prophet, and by others as a religious charlatan. The extent of his power reached an all-time high in 1915 when Nicholas left St. Petersburg to oversee the Imperial Russian Army in the First World War, and Alexandra was left behind, and that's when he really got close to her. He was assassinated by a group of conservative Russian noblemen who opposed his influence over the imperial family. He did have a scandalous and sinister reputation. You know, there was a lot of drinking, a lot of womanizing, possible rapes and things like that. He was not a pure soul. That part is pretty well documented. But again, I wasn't there, so I don't know, but he doesn't have a good reputation. But yeah, the young one had hemophilia, the boy.
The next Rasputin tells the Tsarina that Alexei will recover by morning after he lays his hands upon him.
And that's when the kid, like I said, sold it.
And she wants to reward him, but he declines. And then Alexei regains consciousness.
So he's playing the Tsarina. I don't want a reward. You know, and she's all impressed. A little later, she says, you know, what man in Russia would not take a reward? This man is such a wonderful man. He knows what he's doing the whole time. He's manipulating her.
Then Sonia goes to see Rasputin at Dr. Boris's apartment, and he wants to know what the people are saying about him. And they're saying he must be found and rewarded. And we see Peter, Sonia's brother, waiting outside Rasputin's place where he's living.
Yeah, it's really early because there's no one else on the street.
He confronts her and calls her a slut and a whore, Karen.
She's, leaving the apartment.
Then we see the Tsarina and Sonia discussing Rasputin. And the Tsarina says Rasputin is to name his price, and he must accept her reward. It's her orders. And she now reveals that she's not feeling well, and she wants to see Rasputin.
To cure her.
The Tsarina. Rasputin tells Sonia that he cannot see the Tsarina. Here, in the flat, it must be somewhere better that he can perform his healing.
Suitable for such high-end clients. He can't meet them in the palace, and he can't meet them in his apartment. He needs somewhere in between.
So next we see Rasputin and Dr. Boris checking out their new house, Karen.
Their new digs, and it's nice.
And then we see lots of ladies waiting to see Rasputin, and Dr. Boris tells them all must leave. He's got no more time for them.
Before that, they'd make a big deal. They walk in the house, and they're moving up in the world at this point. And I said, for a holy man, he sure likes the nice things. But he says, this is only the beginning. It's only a house. She has all of Russia that she could give us. She's just given us the house. It's a huge house. But he's like, we can get so much more than this. And Boris is getting a little like he's not interested in all this. He thinks it's not the way to go. And Rasputin is like, yes, bring it all on. I can get more. But yeah, the ladies are it's all ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost looks like perhaps he's curing them with
He's probing them.
with his love power, because when one leaves, he's straightening up the little
And
bed
she's like
area.
pulling on her clothes as she's leaving.
Yes. But the Tsarina's coming, so they kick everybody
Yeah,
out.
the Tsarina and Vanessa arrive. And the Tsarina only seems to feel well when she is with him, Aaron.
Yeah, that's not good.
Rasputin hypnotizes her, and he tells her to make Dr. Boris the doctor of the court. Fire the doctor you got and make him the doctor.
He hypnotizes her into a sleep mode and then tells her what he wants.
So then the Tsarina wakes up and she says she's feeling much better. Next we see Dr. Ziegler.
Yes, the original doctor that was in with
confronting
Alexei.
Rasputin.
Yeah, he's not happy.
They warn each other about what might happen to them each. Then we see Peter and Ivan, and Peter's trying to get Ivan to join him in an assassination plot to kill Rasputin.
Yes, right before that, we hear, and we had it mentioned earlier, that Boris did something and he got struck off the medical register, which is important because the doctor he's now going to be the doctor at court, and the other doctor had a good reputation. Boris apparently has a terrible one, and he's still going to be the doctor. But we don't find out what he did to get kicked off the medical register.
No, we don't. So then Sonia comes to see Rasputin. He is bored with her. He sends her away, but he wants her to bring Vanessa to him.
The pretty one, he calls her.
Yes, the pretty one. She struggles with him as Dr. Boris puts away his glass beakers so they won't be broken.
Yes. They have a pretty good fight because Rasputin doesn't want to see her anymore. He's bored, and that just devastates her.
Then Rasputin hypnotizes Sonia. He tells her to destroy herself.
And she's like, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. She's begging him to spend time with her. And then I'll kill you. I'll kill you. But then he just hypnotizes her, and it's not good for Sonia.
So then Dr. Boris and Rasputin confront each other. Dr. Boris accuses him of being insane. Boris leaves. Rasputin threatens him.
Yeah, and he says, you'll never get along. Rasputin says to Boris, you'll never make it without me.
And we see Peter and Ivan at the cafe. Peter appears to be drunk, and they see Dr. Boris across the room. And Boris wants to talk to Peter and Ivan.
Yeah, and Peter wants to punch out Boris.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you.
All he wants to do is punch people when he's drunk. Yep.
And Boris tells them about Rasputin's hypnosis. Boris tells them that Rasputin must be killed. Ivan doesn't want to have anything to do with it. Peter wants to use Vanessa's bait.
Yeah.
Is that what happens?
And Boris says the Tsarina is hypnotized and does whatever he wishes. He has to be destroyed.
Boris tells them that Rasputin told Sonia to go away and kill herself.
Yeah, you'd think they'd be looking for her.
So then Peter busts into Sonia's room and finds her on the floor with her wrist slit. She gone. Bright red blood.
Yep. He just runs out because he's so mad. He doesn't go over to her or anything. He just runs away to go get Rasputin.
Goes to see Rasputin, and Rasputin toys with him in the dark.
Yes.
Then Rasputin throws acid on Peter, scarring his face. Peter stumbles about and leaves.
Pretty good skin melting makeup for the acid on his face.
Rasputin locks the door behind him.
Although he holds his hands on his face. So if your face is covered with acid, then your hands are going to have acid all over them too, and they're going to start burning or stick to your face because all the skin's melting off. But everyone who it's an automatic reaction because your face is burning, but it probably wouldn't be the best thing to do.
Hadn't thought of that, Dr. Karen. You needed an eye wash station.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think they had one. Or the shower. We used to have a shower. There was a whole shower that you could pull in the lab in case you got it all over you, whatever it was.
So next day, Ivan goes to see Rasputin and tells him how much his sister despises him. But Ivan wants a position at the Paris embassy. He wants it very much, Karen.
Well, he says
He's convincing. He's pretty good at this.
He thinks she really likes him, even though all she talks about is how much she doesn't like him.
Oh, is that why? Is that what he means by
yes?
Methinks she protests too much.
Yes.
Isn't that Shakespeare or something?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So he wants a promotion. Yes, he is very charming.
And Ivan will send a carriage to Rasputin at 10 that evening to meet
So basically,
Vanessa.
Yes, he says, I think she likes you, and I'm willing to just sacrifice my sister to you if you'll give me this promotion. So he is pretty good at, setting it all up. Through the whole thing, Ivan doesn't want to be involved in killing him, but he does participate. He says multiple times, I don't want to kill anyone. I don't want to be involved in that. But he does set it up. He just doesn't want to be the one to what they would say, pull the trigger.
Then we see Dr. Boris injecting chocolates with drugs. ? I wrote. Then Ivan enters, and apparently the wine and everything in the room has been poisoned.
Yeah, he says Rasputin's a pig. He won't be able to resist any of this.
Rasputin arrives.
And Boris is not ready. Like he's trying to pick up all his stuff. It was funny. Like, dude, get it together.
Rasputin wants to know where Vanessa is. Ivan explains that she's, you know how women are, Karen. She's being fashionably.
Well, she can't just be there waiting for him. She has to build anticipation. She'll be about 10 minutes.
Anticipation.
Yes.
He goes to fetch her, leaving Rasputin alone in the room with the wine and chocolates.
And Boris is still in there because he didn't get out in time. So he's behind a bookshelf or something.
So Rasputin pours himself a drink. He starts to drink it, but he doesn't. He sets it back down and
puts another log on the fire.
Yeah, puts another log on the fire. Then he drinks the wine as Dr. Boris watches. Then he says, well, I'll eat some of these chocolates too. And might as well have some more wine too while I'm at it.
Right.
And suddenly he don't feel so good, Karen.
No, he does not.
He collapses. Dr. Boris comes from the shadows to check on him, and Rasputin opens his eyes and crawls toward Dr. Boris.
It's very menacing, the crawl.
Dr. Boris is trapped against a cabinet full of guns.
Karen. I know, it is. It's a gun cabinet, and he doesn't use it. He just...
I was sitting there thinking, grab a gun. Whatever, he doesn't.
It's right behind you.
No, instead he decides to stab Rasputin with the syringe with the drugs in it.
With the remaining drugs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Outside the castle or whatever it is, Ivan finds Peter. He don't look so good.
No.
Peter explains that Rasputin attacked him and Peter dies. He goes.
Rasputin did this, which fires up Ivan, and he runs upstairs.
Yep. Ivan runs in. Rasputin's nowhere to be found.
Well, as Boris runs out and says, he's the devil, he won't die, he won't die. And then they both go in and they can't find him, and then they do.
Yeah, Rasputin comes up behind them and throws a dagger, hitting Boris in the back. Rasputin and Ivan fight. Ivan throws Rasputin out the window. He gone. Dr. Boris gone as well. Credits. The end.
Rasputin is dead.
He gone.
He's the devil. He won't die. I thought that was kind of funny.
All right. What'd you think of the red Russian cocktail, Karen?
It's a little medicinal.
Well, it's all alcohol, isn't it?
It's all alcohol with that little cherry flavor. So it's almost like cough syrup.
Oh, it kind of is. Yeah. It would have been better if it was red, too.
True.
Used the wrong cherry liqueur, maybe.
That's fine. Still had the taste.
Pretty strong. It's all alcohol.
It's very strong, and it tastes a little like cough syrup. So,
but not quite as good as cough syrup.
I would put Sprite in it or something. Get a little bit of something else in there so it doesn't burn.
Make it a
so
red
bad.
Russian spritz.
Yes, for the ladies. I think that would be better.
Anything we learned today, Karen?
Not a whole lot. It was interesting. The movie kind of stayed in one time, like not very much time. I don't know how to explain it, but what'd we learn? Cyrillic alphabet, Copex, who Alexei was, and the other kids in the family. So Nicholas II's family, a little bit about Rasputin himself. That's pretty much it.
Well, it's all about how to do the sign of the cross, Karen.
True.
I had no idea.
You don't do the sign of the cross in the Baptist church?
Fuck no. I'm
No.
not Baptist.
Didn't you grow up Baptist?
No. My mother did. I did not.
No.
She did not continue the Baptist ways, apparently, Karen. I don't think Baptists do that shit anyway.
I don't know.
Sign of the cross. So it's up, down,
I'm right, left. No, left, right.
left, right. I wonder why. It's curious.
Something about mimicking because you're backwards. That's why it's hard for, because I'm looking at you, but I'm trying to think what's my left. So, but I don't know what the difference is or why they do it.
Is it because from the left hand of power comes the father of lies?
I don't know that lyric.
It's a Kiss lyric.
No.
A song called Unholy, Karen. Unholy.
Imagine that.
Yes, from the left hand of power comes the father of lies, children.
I don't think that's why they do it that way, though.
All right, but you know how they used to stab kids that were left-handed with their fork, so they would stop using their left hand because it was evil, Karen. Whatever. All right, enough learning for one evening, I think.
He's an interesting character. I would like to learn more about him.
Well, you can, Karen.
I know there's a lot of document. You see that on
Actually, his daughter wrote a couple books about her experiences. Yeah, living with him.
I'm sure it was interesting.
All right. Anything else? Are we ready to move on to next film?
I think we are.
All right. I believe it's your choice. Is it? Is it not, Karen?
It's actually a listener choice.
Ooh.
We've got a request. We're going to do the 1982 Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing from 1982, did you say?
Yes. It's a listener request.
Anyone I know, Karen?
No.
And that's the reason why? No other reason?
Yes, no. I don't think there's any other reason, no.
Okay. Maybe I'll try to come up with one. You know how,
You do like a connection. But
7 degrees of separation or whatever that shit is, but whatever.
I got the request a while ago, and we do plan these out weeks in advance. Many weeks. Yes. So I thought I'll slip it in so that we do the request earlier than we normally, instead of them waiting till the summer, we'll do it now.
Okay.
I've never seen it.
I've seen parts of it, I'm sure.
I think I remember watching part of it.
Did they give you a cocktail to drink as well, Karen?
No, but I found the Swamp Thing cocktail. Oh. And there are many of those out there. So this one is 4 ounces of gin, 4 ounces of orange juice, and 4 ounces of hypnotic liquor, which I think is like blue curacao. I'm not sure. I think it has a little more flavor than that, but it's blue.
We've already had a cocktail with that.
But I don't think I could find it.
No. So it's gin,
orange juice. They say Sunny Delight, which is kind of funny.
Okay, gin, OJ.
And hypnotic liquor. 4 ounces of each. That seems like a lot.
Yeah.
And you just basically
does seem like a lot.
You pour the orange juice and gin together and then stir while you're pouring the hypnotic, and it looks swampy green when mixed right. Tastes like a good fruit punch.
Yeah.
And you can add ice if you want. Cocktailbuilder.com.
Oh, that's where I get lots of my cocktails.
But there are many, many different. I was looking up swamp water, swamp things. There's a lot. This is just one of the many. Because I knew I had these ingredients.
So that will be episode 151, Karen. Today's 150. It's kind of a milestone.
I would say so.
150.
It's amazing. We've watched 150 films. It doesn't seem like that many. Sometimes I have to look back through and see, have we watched this before? Not very often, but sometimes some of
Yes.
them run together a little bit. Hammer
They do.
ones for me do. I know they don't for you, but I'm like, you sure we haven't done this one already?
All right. Anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
Well, the listeners, we always have to thank the listeners. There's so many podcasts out there. Thank you for spending time with us. What about you, Greg? Who do you need to thank?
Karen, I need to thank the great people of the state of Illinois
Nice.
and the band Verse 13 for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Hey, it's Karen, and I'm here to talk to you about getting social with us. Did you know you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast? Or check out our website, scaryspirits.com. If you have something to say, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening. Please drink responsibly.